Hey guys, Ricky here with the Backpacking Scouter. For those of you that have been following our channel, you know that Liam and I, my 18-year-old son, just finished the Colorado Trail just a few weeks ago. It was an amazing trip. We had a blast. But we thought I'd take an opportunity here to I did a video earlier on what we packed and what we took with us, but I thought I'd share with you some of the lessons that we learned about, after doing almost 500 miles out backpacking. What are my thoughts about all that gear that we took? What did I like? What I didn't like? What would I do different knowing than what I know now? And then also just to tell you a little bit about some of the stuff that we started off with that maybe we sent home along the way. So for me, I've been backpacking for well over 25, 30 years of my life. Started young and have really just enjoyed it and done it a lot and done a lot of weekend backpacks with friends and by myself. And even done before we did the Colorado Trail. We've even done, I think the longest that I'd done before that was about 8 days. Liam and I did Philmont 2 years ago down in New Mexico, did 8 days trek there. I've done a couple 4-day, 5-day treks as well. I was very familiar with backpacking gear and then put a lot of effort into the last year or so in dialing in my gear and trying to get, somewhat light. I wouldn't call myself an ultra lighter necessarily, but I tried to get my gear as light as I could for going on the trail. And so, I had a good idea, and I think I spent a good bit of time kind of really dialing in my gear, and I think you'll see that as we talk through some of this for it, because my opinions I think stay the same for a lot of the gear. But at the same time, you learn a lot when you get out on the trail with almost 500 miles and having to carry everything every single day and putting 18 to 20 miles a day on the trail with some of this gear. And so we're going to take this opportunity now to kind of talk to you on some of that stuff. So let's just dive right into it. So let's start off with my backpack. So I have the Gregory Baltoro 75-liter backpack. I've had this backpack for a while. Like I said, this has been a really good backpack for me. I probably have had it for at least 4 or 5 years. I use it a lot with our scouting trips. It does really well at being able to get heavier amounts and carrying with, and I like how it fits. I like the structure on a lot of it. So it's done really well. I know there's some lighter options that you can get in some of the ultralights, especially if you start getting rid of the frames. But this thing's really not that bad. It's just under 5 pounds or so for it, but it really just does really well on how it sits. It packs good. I like a lot of the pocket structures. I like how it zips and unfolds, and I can open it like a suitcase. There's just quite a few things I like about it. I like the pockets up top. I added my own little patch to customize a little bit, but I really did the belt system and the arm strap system do really well for that. And so for me, this pack did really well for me as we went along the trail. I always felt like it carried the weight well and it balanced it pretty well along the way. I may be looking at as I get lighter in some of my gear and trying to, get one of the frameless, but I'm always going to keep this one because, especially if I'm going out with a scout troop or something, I have a tendency to pack a little heavier than I would normally because I want to make sure that we have enough in case any of the scouts forget stuff. And so for me, I will always have a framed backpack to be able to carry some of that. For our trail, for the Colorado Trail, the heaviest I had gotten with 6 days worth of food and water, we were at about 38 pounds. So it wasn't really that bad for it, and it really carried well. While we're talking about that, you can see here too a little accessory. A couple accessories here. I decided to take along with me. One was a solar panel. I really, I feel like I know it worked, but I don't know how well it worked. It was really hard to judge, how much charge did it actually put into my battery bank, when leaving it strapped on like this during the day, because you're going in and out of shady areas, you're going in and out of sunshine, so it's not just sitting directly in the sun like it would maybe if I used it here at home. So like I said, I used it. I know that my battery bank helped me keep all my stuff charged for the whole thing. I never really had a major issue of running out of charge got close a couple times, but I always seem to move it. So I know this definitely helped a little bit. And it was super lightweight. It's just a small panel there. The only thing I did differently from how it came in the box was that I added some duct tape basically here on the back to be able to sturdy up that plug, because I'd seen some reviews that the plug had a tendency to want to come off. So we did that. And then the string in the loop here is something I added so I could take it on and off if I needed to, and so that I could strap it on here. But worked all right for me. Whether or not I'll carry it again in the future, I don't know. I know definitely for weekend trips, I probably wouldn't carry it because I wouldn't be as worried about my battery bank running out. But when you're out on the trail for 23 days, which is what we did on our through hike portion, it was definitely something that I was concerned about, to try to keep all my gear charged. So definitely glad I took it. The other thing I took just for my own interesting aspects of things was a thermometer. This is a very lightweight one I found on Amazon. It just helped me be able to tell what the temperatures were. To me, that just helps be able to share some of the information with you guys. You know, while we were going on the trail, I could get up in the mornings and see what the temperature was when we woke up, you know, what the temperatures were when we were getting into camp, maybe throughout the day. So I just kind of had that strapped there on the backpack just to be able to look at that. We never really got much. I think the lowest we got during our through hike was around 28 to 30 degrees one night, and the highest I think we got up into the 80s or so one of the days that we were doing there as well. All right, so let's dive into the gear that we've got. So I'm just going to start pulling stuff out of my pack and just start emptying it so that you can see. So of course we carried 2 smart water bottles, 2 liters, so that we could carry at any given time 2 liters of water with us. And so I had those each pockets there on the pack, and we pretty much, I always tried to keep those full, just because I like to try to make sure I'm drinking a lot of water. Some of the other accessories as we kind of just pull things out. So I carried a tripod. This thing, I really did a lot of research to try to find a decent ultralight kind of tripod, smaller footprint. This is what I used for the camera. You know, it's a pretty decent tripod that I got off of Amazon. The price wasn't bad. It was just barely £1. So in really retrospect, it's not really that super heavy. But if I had to do it again, would I carry it again? I don't know. I used it some when we were at camp to do the end of the day briefings, or to show you guys some of the time lapses of different things and stuff along the way, but I really didn't utilize it as much. Like if I go on a weekend trip, when I'm filming for you guys, I try to show a little bit more action, and I'll show a lot of, like, I'll set the tripod up and then walk towards the camera, or set the tripod up and walk away from the camera, just to kind of show you what we're really experiencing out there. But like on the through hike, when you're doing 18 to 20 miles, you don't really have time, nor are you wanting to exert the extra energy to do some of that extra portions of it. So you found more creative ways to showcase some of the same stuff. So for me, I really wasn't utilizing the tripod as much as I could have been, or as I maybe normally would on a weekend trip. And so if I was to do another through hike, I think I might just try to get like something a little smaller that you could put on a strap and wrap around a tree or something if you needed to, really, to try to get stable on it. But really and truthfully, I loved the stability that the new iPhone 14 created, and so hand holding it was great. The camera stabilization was just amazing. But we'll talk about that in another video, where I talk about how we filmed and stuff that. So tripod. I also had my hiking sticks. So these are some hiking sticks I found off of Amazon. At one point, they're not super ultra light, but they're pretty decent. They come packed down. The fact that they're not a set height can be challenging, because if it's not tight enough on those clips there, then you'd find in times where it would the pole would push in on itself, and I'd have to pull it back out. So I mean, that could be a little bit of a challenge. I mean, this is one of those things that maybe one of the days I'll upgrade to some titanium poles or something to that nature, but we'll see. how that goes. Um, but these I didn't have for the first week because I had Willa with us. But then I had these in my first resupply, and absolutely 100%. I'm a big fan of, if you're doing, a lot of hiking and long days, having hiking poles is definitely worth it. I don't care that these are a little heavier. They were definitely not going home at any point in time because they saved a lot of ache and pain in my knees and in my ankles along the way. So was very, very happy to have those. Also, let's see here. We also had, I had a umbrella. So I broke down this year and bought myself an ultralight backpacking umbrella. Um, this one here is a Gossamer Gear one. Absolutely. I mean, to me, I don't really care what brand necessarily you decide to buy. We even had one. I had a travel umbrella that I'd had around the house that I gave Liam to be able to utilize, and he used it. I mean, it wasn't quite as sturdy as, say, this one was in the windy days that we were trying to use it. But man, this thing, absolutely worth its weight in gold. So if you're on the fence about, do you want to take an umbrella with you backpacking, if you're through hiking and you're going to be out there, 10 hours, 11 hours a day on the trail, and out there for 30 days or more, even on some of these bigger, through hikes that you could be out there for as much as 5 months, 6 months. Do it. Not only for the rain, it's just so nice. I had on my backpack some accessories that I was able to buy that would allow me to just strap the umbrella to my backpack. So I could put it on and strap it right there to the strap. And so I didn't even have to hold it. I use this thing so much just for sun protection. Just to get out those days where the sun was just beating down on us so tough and brutal. I used it for that more than anything. We didn't get a lot of rain while we were out, and so we didn't have to utilize it for that. We had a couple times where we pulled over, but for the most part, I really utilize it the most is for sun protection, but highly, highly recommend as well. Let's see what else we got on the outside here. So hanging from one of my straps here on the front is my Garmin InReach Mini. I love this thing. This was definitely great. It's a satellite communicating device. What it did is it helped me to be able to communicate and send text to my wife back home on a regular basis, even when I didn't have cell service. I had upgraded the plan that they have here to the unlimited plan, so I could unlimited text as many text messages as we wanted. But it's also, a really amazing device for safety, and so you've got, the ability here on this to be able to hit the button and call for search and rescue if anything bad was to happen. I also grabbed and got the insurance policy with them that would allow some coverage for some of that search and rescue too as well. So I definitely recommend this. They're definitely the GPS itself is a little pricey. And then, if you get the unlimited plans, it can be a little pricey as well for the service plans as you're going along. But for me, it was definitely worth it while we were out there. The other thing I really love about the Garmin is that you can turn the plans. You can change your plan without penalty. So I was able to put it on the highest and most extreme plan while we were out there, and then now that I'm back home and in my regular thing, I can bump it down to one of the lower plans while I'm out. So I love this thing. Definitely would have it. I carry that thing every time I go out. All right, so we're going to dive in here. Before we get into the top pocket, we're just going to get into some of these pockets here. So on the outside pocket here, the things that I kept in here were the first thing is our water filtration system. So there's a lot lighter weight systems out there, but I tell you what, we took the Platypus gravity filter. So it comes with 2 bags. So you got a dirty bag, it'll carry up to 4 liters of water, and then a clean bag that would also be able to transition the water from the dirty to the clean. And some hoses there to connect everything, and then the actual filter itself. To me, I love this thing because I can fill up the dirty bag with 4 liters of water, hang it up in a tree while we're at camp or at lunch, and just let it do its thing. A lot of other folks out on the trail were having to, squeeze their bags and do that with some of those smaller, lightweight filters. And some of those smaller filters too have a tendency to clog up. There's a couple of them I liked, and I think if I'm out by myself for a weekend, I do have some of those filters that I enjoy to carry out. But this really isn't that much weight, and so it was well worth it for Liam and I both to have this. We were also able to utilize the bags here to if we had to dry camp. We were able to just, if we had to hit a creek 4 miles before camp or something, we could fill up either the dirty bag or go ahead and filter it into the clean bag, and then just stuff that into our backpack and be able to carry an extra 4 liters of water to camp. So we both carried with us 2 liters on us, and then we had another 4. So we could go dry camp with 8 liters, which was plenty enough while we were out there. So for me, I do still very much like that we carried that and thought it was a great choice. Well, hi, Willa. Willa's going to help me with the rest of everything. Also in this bag here is just a couple other things where I kept them. This here was my own rehydration kind of kit that I'd put together for food. So basically I did a lot of my own. I would take the food and take it out of the bags in order to get the air and stuff out of them and put them into Ziploc bags, freezer bags. And then I could just take that freezer bag and put it into here. What this did was really, it just helped me keep the food warm and hot while it was rehydrating, so that when I actually, when you're sitting there for 10-15 minutes to let your food rehydrate, when I finally would dive into it, it would all still be hot at night. I'm a big fan of hot meals at night, so loved this thing. We'll talk about this in another video, but I made this basically out of a sun visor that you can get for your cars and stuff. So made it at home myself based off of some plans I saw on the internet. But definitely was glad to have that. It weighs next to nothing. Also in here, so I chose on our through hike, I normally, as you guys see with a lot of my weekend trips and stuff, I normally backpack with a chair. I just like being able to sit at the end of the day and be able to kind of give some support to my back after having a backpack on it for a while. But for the through hike, when I was really trying to look at my weight, I did decide to leave the chair at home, which I don't fully regret. There were some times where I wish I would have had it, but I basically just took this thing. It's super lightweight. It helped me get in places where if I wanted a pad underneath my butt, I could pull it out, or if I wanted to use it in front of the tent to be able to put my knees on, as I was putting things in the tent and setting up and doing stuff like that. It was very functional. And like I said, it's so super lightweight that do I regret carrying it? Absolutely not. Also here, I kept my microfiber towel that we carried with us. Just so that it would be easier to dry out on those areas. I would clip it if it was soaking wet. I'd clip it onto the bag and let it do. But basically, I just carried this small level towel. This is all I had for a towel the whole time. As you can see, it needs to be cleaned a bit as it was thoroughly utilized along the way. But I used this for either, whether it was just to dry off for something, at the end of the day, I would try to take some, backpacker baths, is what I call hiker baths. In the creek or something, wash your legs off, do those kind of things, wash your feet. And I would always just kind of use this to clean off after that. So very glad to have that along the way. So let's go into these pockets here. So here is our bathroom system. So basically it's just in here you'll see the leftovers of what we managed to end with our toilet paper. So we did decent at packing so that we didn't have overly abundance of that. A spade to be able to dig cat holes along the way. And then also I have in here a little baggie for some hand sanitizer. So that always stays in an easily accessible pocket, but Liam and I both share that here. There's a little bit, it's an old scouting habit of mine. I would throw in some doggy bags to be able to, if I needed to, if we were in a situation where it was a little harder to dig a cat hole, if I had to carry some poo for a little while, then I could. And I also just throw a little bit of some newspaper in, because this stuff is amazing when it comes to, like, if you get your boots wet or anything like that, you can just wad up some of this, toss it in there into the shoe. And it helps absorb that water just really fast, so much faster than just sitting them out to dry out. So it doesn't really weigh anything, so I always just toss a couple of sheets of newspaper in the bag to go along as well. Let's see, in this pocket over here is my accessories for electronics. In this here, I had my battery bank, which is the Nitecore NB 20,000. So I chose to go with a little bit bigger of a battery bank because, like I said, I have quite a few electronics. I recorded all the videos along the way on my cell phone, which meant that it needed to be charged every single day. At the end of the day, I also had my Garmin. I also carried my Kindle and a couple other things. I've got my Garmin watch uh, and the Phoenix 7 Pro, which really didn't have to be charged a whole lot because it is solar. But I was utilizing my watch to track the mileage each day. So instead of it lasting like its normal 28 days, if it's not doing anything but telling time, it was lasting about a week. So I would have to charge it, about 2 or 3 times along the trail. In here is also the accessory kit for all my electronics. So here you've got the bank to be able to charge stuff if we were at an area, like say when we got off trail a couple times at the cabin, or if we were at one of the stores and we wanted to plug things in, I could charge up the battery bank and stuff like that. And then just a bunch of different cords that I had. So each of my gear, of course, has to use something different. I did try to find the smallest cords that I could find to limit in weight. And where I could, I tried to use adapters to be able to help do some stuff. But I found that, man, a couple packets of adapters I bought, they just didn't work really well. So I ended up tossing a bunch of them out along the way because they would quit working along the way. So I'm glad that I carried the extra cords. And then also in here, I tossed in a wired pair of headphones. These I actually never used. Maybe once I think I pulled them out and used them one time, and it was in an area where we were camping and we had some cell service, and I was watching a movie in my tent. Other than that, I mean, I tossed them in there thinking I think if I was by myself, I would have used them a little more often, but because I had Liam out with me on this whole trail, we were talking most times and hanging out with each other, so I wasn't really looking for things to fill the silence or any of that stuff as I would go away. So that's it there for those accessory kits. I did also carry, as a part of the electronics, I have a wireless mic that I'm wearing right now that I would utilize some. But I tell you what, though, the new iPhone 14, the mic was amazing. So I very rarely pulled the wireless mic out. I did still carry it just because it's so lightweight that it really wasn't that big of a deal to have it there. All right, so now we're going to dig into the backpack, and then we'll get to the top pockets after that. So typically the first things that you would get out of my pack would be my rain gear stuff. So here I've got my rain gear. I carried pants and a jacket for rain gear. They're ultralight pants and jacket that I got on Amazon. I can put the link down in the description, but easily able to get. But they're pretty good in the weight, and for me, I was glad I had them. Did I use the pants all that often? No, but when I really weighed them out, when I was deciding, I almost pulled them out when we were going, but it was like 2 ounces for the pants. So I'm like, what's it matter? Let's leave them in there, because I would rather have them to know that if I needed to layer up, because that's what I used. One of the systems that I used to make sure that I could stay warm was that I didn't carry nearly as much clothes, but I used to know that I had layer systems for it. And the pants and the jacket of the rain suit could be utilized if I needed to layer up to keep me warm. So definitely was glad I had those. Then I also carried a tarp. I tell you what, for me, backpacking, here in Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains, we are very prone to afternoon thunderstorms. And I do not like to have to throw my tent up really quick in order to get out of a storm if I wanted to get out of it and not have to just sit in it. And I don't really want to just stand out or sit in it in my rain suit either. So, for me, I ended up a couple years ago breaking down and buying this ultralight tarp from REI. It's one of the quarter dome tarps. They don't make it anymore. I don't know why, but it's only like 12 ounces. So for me, it was worth it. We pulled it out a couple times. We got lucky and didn't get a lot of thunderstorms. But I tell you what, even though we only had like 2 days of maybe 5 or 10 minutes of rain, I still wouldn't have taken this out. It never got taken out and put in a resupply to send home or something, because I just didn't want to take the chance. I mean, I know the likelihood that that you get rain here, so I would rather have it for that comfort. So much nice, and so I don't regret that carrying that at all. Um, Next in my pack would have been, this normally would have been full, but this is my earth sack. This is my food carrying system that I chose to carry. Liam carried a Bear Vault that I have as well in my gear selection. So he carried that with his food, and then I carried this with mine. And so a lot of times we just try to, this was my first time really utilizing the earth sack. And if you saw the video where I talked about it a little bit, I explained some of my reasonings for what we did, but it did real well. But I never really, we never had any bear come after our food. I didn't even notice whether or not, if any, they say a lot of times the issues with these can be the small critters, like your chipmunks and other things going after them and chewing into some of the cords or stuff. But if any of them went after it, I never saw any sign of it along the way. So I always tied it up like you're supposed to on the trees, and it worked really well for me. So this definitely helped cut on a lot of the weight from carrying a vault system. So for me, I was very happy to have had that, and very glad to know that it's part of my future gear. So now let's just talk about clothing for just a second. So this was my extra clothing bag that I would carry in there. So there's a mix mash here. I'm going to just kind of tell you real quick what we had on the trail. So pretty much every day. So my hiking clothes were pretty much, I had this long sleeve with a hood jacket. This is not a special brand. It's just one that I'd found somewhere. I don't even know what the brand is, but I tell you what, this was my everyday wear, and I love this thing. I don't really burn easily in the sun, but just knowing that when, those days where the sun was just beating down on you, I loved having the long sleeves on it. And even in the warmer days, when we had some days on that, I learned really quick like that it was just really great to take, when we cross creeks, and splash water up on my sleeves. And it would sit and soak into this and just help keep me cool along the way. So I loved this thing, and would totally continue to wear something like that when I'm out backpacking for that. As far as pants and stuff, I would alternate between, I had shorts, I had a pair of lightweight shorts here that I would wear during the day, or if it was, buggy enough, I did carry a pair of lightweight pants. These are Pranas, I believe. These were great. So for me, I would utilize these. It just depends. This year, the trail was really buggy. A lot of mosquitoes, a lot of flies. So sometimes I would wear these on a regular basis. But when it started warming up in certain sections, I would go back to the shorts. And then maybe if, we get to camp and the bugs are bad, I'd switch over into the pants. So I still kept them as we went along, even though towards the end, I felt myself wearing the shorts more than the pants on that. So then I always carried some extra underwear. I carried, some good moisture wicking quality underwear. These worked really well. I carried at least normally a couple pairs, so that at any given time I could wash one pair in a stream or creek, and then um, I could hang them out to dry on the backpack or something, so that I could keep them alternated on that. So you could carry more than that if you wanted, but 2 pairs seemed to work well for me. I did eventually, I think, about, I don't know, 2 weeks into the trail or so, started getting some holes into one of them. And so I did ask my wife in one of our last resupplies to toss in an extra pair. So then there for the last week, I did have a 3rd pair, because the one pair with the holes weren't bad enough to get rid of yet, but I did take them out of rotation for what we had. I also carried some extra socks. For socks wise, I carried 3 pair of socks, just because, for me, I'm always preaching, take care of your feet. And I just was, worried that only having 2 and washing and not knowing how long they would take to dry, if that was going to be enough. So So I had 3 pair of socks. I swear by the darn Tough socks. They're amazing. They'll allow you, like I could wear these for like 2 days before they would start feel a little dirty in some of the ways, and then I could wash them and do that. So it made for good rotations on those. But so socks typically. I also carried a pair of thermal pants just because I chose this year, as you'll see here when I talk about sleeping bags, that I chose to try to go with a really lightweight quilt. And I was worried that, with the temperatures getting lower in the mountains in Colorado, that I might get cold at night. And so my plan was to be able to layer if I had a cold scenario like that. In all honesty, I think I only wore these once, maybe twice, and probably didn't even have to then. I think I was putting them on more so because I thought it was going to be cold, but then I ended up not really being that cold. Like I said earlier, I think the coldest night we had was like 28 degrees, and so I had a 30-degree quilt, and so it did well on that. So didn't really utilize this much, but I think it's one of those things like, would I still carry it in the future? Probably so, because I tell you what, I've slept cold a couple times and I don't like it. So I will carry a few extra ounces to be prepared and make sure that I am not cold. And then I also had a buff. This is one of my Philmont buffs that we got from a while back. I would wear this a lot as a head band in the mornings, but it did really well at keeping my ears warm. I actually ended up, one of the things, and I don't have it out here, that I did send back in my first resupply was my actual stocking cap, because I could wear this at night and pull it down over my ears, and I would even pull it down over my eyes. And it seemed to keep my ears warm enough in the temperatures that we were dealing with, and so I didn't keep the stocking cap or the gloves that I had brought. So those were one of the things that I sent back in one of the first resupplies. And then the last thing too was that I had one extra shirt. This was a short sleeve shirt. This was mostly my camp shirt. So like when I would get to camp at the end of the day, I would switch over into this in order to be in something a little cleaner. And then typically, because in the afternoons or at night, it would start to chill off. I had a fleece that I carried as well, and so I would put that on at night. And then most mornings, I would get up, I would put this on, and then would start off hiking in this because of the chill of the morning. And then normally, once we started warming up, we would stop and I would pull these two off before it got too sweaty, and then change over into my long sleeve. So minimum amount of clothes, I think. I did also carry a puffy with me. I also forgot to bring that out here to show you. But that was one of the, because it wasn't as cold as I was thinking it was going to be. I took the chance in that first week and decided I liked the feel of the fleece better than the puffy. And so I sent the puffy home in the first resupply. So that's pretty much it on the clothes. Now let's get kind of into our sleep system. So next thing that you would normally have here in my pack would be my tent. I carried the Big Agnes Tiger Wall 2-person tent. Love this thing. This thing weighs just under 2 pounds. It's super ultralight. This was a tent that I spent the money on a year or two ago and decided to upgrade to, and just loved it. Spacious. The first week, when Willow was there, she would alternate between being in the tent with either Liam and I. She could be in the tent. I could have my gear in the tent. I could be in the tent and have plenty of room and not feel like I was, coffined into something. But it also, with it having the multi layers too, it's got the screen portions and then also the rain fly that goes over it. That helped us have a sanctuary to get away from the bugs too if we needed to. So for me, this tent was amazing. I had no issues with it, and it's got a decent enough footprint that finding places to put it wasn't very difficult on that, and it handled really well on the days that we got kind of windy and some of the other things. So very happy with this tent. Let's see here. Down in the bottom, I also had my camp shoes. So these were kind of just some shoes that I've had for a while. They're the Tevas. I changed these. I used to have Crocs, but I utilize these for a couple things. One, to get out of my boots at the end of the day at camp, to be able to get into something comfortable. But then also too, the reason I went to these versus the Crocs is I wanted something a little more stable if I had to do water crossing. So with these having the straps and stuff on them, they're really cool, good to be able to keep you from losing one of them or something when you're trying to cross through water. Like if I want to take my boots off and wade knee deep or something through a stream, these are just amazing for it. And they're really lightweight, so they were a really great thing to have there for that. Let's see, next in here, my other parts of my sleep system here. So for me, so one of the things, so I love a camp pillow. For those of you that follow the channel here, you know that I have gone through many struggles trying to figure out what my camp pillow thing is going to be over the years. But what I finally ended up with is, so this here is a really ultra lightweight air pillow. So you take, blow it up. It can strap to your pad. It'll stay in place. You know, really cool thing. For me, I just don't like these things by themselves. And so I've had this for forever, utilized it for a little while to try to get lightweight in my pillow system, but never did really use it. And then eventually I came upon this pillow here, and I was able to get this, you know, through one of my purchases there at REI, and just kind of get this. And this is more, it's got memory foam in it, but it's not like full on pieces. It's just like cut up pieces of memory foam. So it's super comfortable. It's really soft, but it's also super ultra lightweight and can fall down to something pretty small. So for me, whereas I used to use this really big memory foam pillow that was as big as the air pillow there, but all memory foam, you know, that had a little bit of weight to it. So I realized when I was trying to cut some weight that I could take this, pair it with this. Now I get the comfort that I want in a pillow, but also get a little bit of, be able to have my head up a little bit from the air. So for me, like this by itself was just too small. But pairing them together, they were lighter than my memory foam pillow and super comfortable. And like I said, I like to read some at night in the tent. So this was a really great addition to mine. And so totally would recommend this for a pillow system. Then we get in. So I had the Nemo tensor pad that I used. So this pad here itself is actually not mine. Long story short, for me, I have the same pad, but I have the wide version of it. And in the first week of being on the trail, I started having issues with it losing air. And I don't know if I had a hole in it. I tried doing the best to look for the hole while out on the trail, but it's hard to do when you're out on the trail like that. And so I tried to reach out to Nemo, didn't really get good communication from their team there on being able to try to get it repaired while I was on the trail. So I kind of had to throw an audible, and I reached out to a really good friend of mine who has the same pad, and asked him if he would run and give it to my wife, because she was bringing me my first resupply in a couple days. And so this one's actually his. His is the Mummy, which actually worked really well. I tell you, I had originally gotten the wide because I'm a big guy and I like to roll at night, and I sleep on my sides. And so I had gotten it because I wanted to have room to be able to move on it. And it wasn't that much more, you know, in weight than the Mummy size one. But I tell you what, one of the things I liked the most about the Mummy one was that it paired really well with my quilt. I have a foot box on my quilt. And you could even take that, and I could put the Mummy foot portion into the foot box of the quilt on the nights where it was chilly enough where I didn't want to have to worry about kicking it off or any of those kind of things. So this worked really well on it. It's also has a good insulation level. So I don't remember the exact on it, but I think that the Nemos are somewhere around 4.5 or so in their insulation value. So it really helps keep the cool of the ground off of you when you're sleeping. So for me, knowing that we were going to be at high elevations, that was an important thing for me. And then also the biggest thing I love about this pad is that it's thick. Like I said, I'm a side sleeper, and so when you sleep on your side like that, you got a couple points in your hips and your shoulders and stuff that have a tendency to push down through the pad. And having a thicker pad, this is I think about 3 inches is what it inflates up to. It really gives you the ability to not be laying on the ground. So love this pad. Probably not the lightest pad that they have out there, but it's not super heavy either. So totally was happy with that along the way, even with the challenging customer support that I had from Nemo on the trail. And then my sleeping bag here. So as I mentioned, so I have a 0 degree sleeping bag that I carry for when it's cooler. But on this one I wanted to go lightweight because the 0 degree one's in the 4 to 5 pounds of weight. This here is a 30 degree, just one of the REI. I believe it's the Magma quilt that REI has. I caught it on sale once, bought it on one of the REI sales, and got it and have loved it. It's been a great quilt. It did really well at keeping me, and it's only like a pound. So I was able to kind of really cut a lot of weight by having that for that. So super happy with that along the way. Eventually one of these days, maybe I'll get myself another quilt to pair with that for winter camping as well. And then the last thing I think on the inside here was these are just some bath cloths that I'd carried. These are actually medical cloths. I discovered these once from when my youngest son had been in the hospital at one point. They're super lightweight, and they come in these they're individually packaged here. And so you got about 10 or so of them in here, but they're dry, but they have the soap and other things all kind of built into it. So they're meant really in the medical world to be able to utilize as to help people give baths in the bed and things like that. But they're amazing for on the trail as well because they're super lightweight, even lighter weight than the baby wipes and things that other people use. But then you just add a little water to it, and then it becomes a really great source to be able to clean yourself up at the end of the day. Also, before I move on to the top pockets on that, here are a couple things that Liam had carried. These weren't in my pack, but Liam had taken those portions. So we shared some gear. As you saw, I had the water filtration and the hygiene stuff, and then he carried the cooking stuff. So here we always carried at least a couple bottles of fuel. We had my Toaks Titanium. I believe this is the 550 milliliter cup that we would utilize. Some for tea if I wanted it, or we could even split to use it to measure the water or other things. We also carried the Pocket Rocket stove that paired well with the fuel canisters here. This did really well. In this case here, we also have a Bic lighter that we would utilize. When I go by myself, this thing does amazing at being compact. So like if I'm out by myself, I can just take one canister of fuel. I have the whole thing packed into one little compact thing. But because he and I were out there together, we had a couple people there. We also carried my Sea to Summit pot. This one's a 1.2 liter. And what this just gave us the ability to do was that we could boil up water to be able to handle both of our meals if we wanted it without having to utilize the small cup. So we carried that as well. Like both of these, they're super lightweight. They're really durable. And they work really well. When I go by myself, I don't carry the big pot necessarily. I just carry this system. But because there were two of us, we had a little extra. Couple extra things that came with us in the beginning, but then ended up coming home on the first resupply. First was I took some spikes, basically to some yak tracks that I have here. There was a lot of snow still out at the higher elevations, and I was worried that it was going to be hard to pass some of that with the backpacks and stuff. So we took it for the first week. Hardly used them. I think I put them on once. And so based off of the reports we were getting from other people we met on the trail coming from the other direction, we decided to send these home on our first resupply. So we sent those back with my wife. And then I did carry a headlamp. This is actually not my headlamp, but I can't seem to find it since I've been home. So not sure where it's at. It's somewhere here at the house. But this is one of my extra ones. I brought it out just to show you and remind me to tell you, but I took it. But you know what? Most nights, you're through hiking, you're hiking all the way up until the end of the day. And then, in Colorado, this, the time of year that we were out on the trail, in July, it doesn't get dark till 9 o'clock. Well, most nights by 9 o'clock, we were going to bed. If I wasn't asleep by 9 o'clock, I was laying in my bed, reading. So I didn't really do a lot of night hiking. I mean, I think I would have kept the light if I was trying to do some night hiking and trying to get up super early when it was still dark or something like that. But we typically got up about 5:36, and it was always daylight when we got up, and always pretty much daylight when you crawled into tent at night. So for me, I sent this home on one of the first resupplies just to lighten a little bit, because also for me, if you ever see me talk about it, my Phoenix 7 has an LED light on it. So if I did need a light, I did have that in my watch, so that if I needed something to try to look for something, I could do that. So for me, that was the reason why I let that go. For others, if you don't have at least some form, you might want to still have a sort of a bit of light. All right, so let's go back now to our pockets up here. The last couple things we got. So for up here, I just had a bunch of little minor things. So you would have my toothbrush, toothpaste, my hygiene kit. Here was a little accessory kit that I had. This was something that I carried. It had different things and stuff here in it. I had a brush for myself, long hair. Of course, I had to take care of that. Mosquito head net. Boy Scout in me always carries a compass, whether it gets used or not. I will always do that. This thing really wasn't that heavy. I also carried a little notebook in order to journal in, pencil. Let's see what else is in here. A couple zip ties for worst case, if I needed to repair something. An extra Bic lighter in case we needed it. Some chapstick. A couple of floss sticks. And a couple safety pins in case I needed to fix something on the trail. So that's my accessory kit. It doesn't really weigh that much. Some of this stuff, do you really need it? Probably not. Could I gotten away without some of the stuff? Sure. But would I carry it anyway? Yes. Because some of those things like your compass, your ace bandage, and some of those things, if you really did need it, then you'd be glad you had it. Also, my Tokes or my titanium spoon. Love this thing. It's a really long spoon. Helps you get into those meals without getting your hands dirty that much. Love that thing. I also carried a little fun flute that I had that I like to carry for that. I also had some bug spray, and then a couple like tea packets and other things that I had in that pocket. And then over here, I carried, let's see what all was in here. Up here, I had most of my first aid stuff. So I have my own little first aid kit that I built myself. That's got bandages, it's got leukotape, it's got moleskin, it's got, these were actually in it as well, some Tums, some Aleve and ibuprofen. I did also carry, in our first resupply, I had my wife bring out some Neosporin to be able to have, because we were getting a couple blisters along the way. So I just wanted to err on the safety side. I actually didn't use it that much along the way. I always carried a little toothpick. This is a little kit that I got that's got rope in it, and it's like a rock bag to help throw a bear line if I had to throw a bear line. It's super ultra light and just nice to have as a backup to the Ursac. If I got in a place where I knew there was bear signs and I was worried about it, then I could get it up there and put it up higher and get it out of sight. And then this was just some extra rope that I carried just to have with me. We also carried some tablets and stuff to help add salt and other things to your water, and add some of the electrolytes and things. So I always had at least 6 or 7 of these in there that I would put in my water. We ended up using a lot of leukotape, mostly for preventative. I tell you, so I carry in my first aid kit moleskin and leukotape. And I normally just, when it's just me or something, I just carry a very small amount of this. Maybe I wrap it around a lighter or wrap it around some chapstick. But this particular, with it being a through hike, we carried a roll of this thing, and was very glad we did, because it's leukotape, man. I swear by it for preventative. Like if you get a really bad blister on your foot, then absolutely use the moleskin. It helps give some cushion to some of that. But if you're getting some hot spots and you're trying to prevent yourself from getting any future blisters or something like that, man, Leukotape is just amazing. It really sticks to you really well and stays there a lot better than moleskin does. And so I swear by that stuff. I also took some powdered soap just to be able to have stuff to kind of, like I said, wash some of the clothes. And when we were washing myself or some of those, I had a collapsible bowl also that I took that was part of Willa's gear and her dog gear. And so I utilized that. She had one bowl that was for her food and water, and I had the one bowl that I would use to put soap and stuff in to do that. So those were all of my accessories there. That's pretty much everything that we had. Like I said, when you look at it, I told you a few of the things that we decided to take out, but it really wasn't that many because, we did so well on, doing our shakedowns and really planning out our gear that I think we had it dialed in pretty well. As you saw, as I talked through a lot of the stuff, there's not a lot I would have changed. I think we had a good packing system. I think we had good quality gear. Is there better gear out there than some of the things that I have? Sure. But one of the challenges that you always run into with gear is weighing out the challenge between, do you want to shave off more ounces and spend hundreds of dollars more? So you have to kind of weigh some of that out sometimes. I mean, I'm at that point in my gear system that it costs five, six, $700 sometimes just to shave a few ounces. And so sometimes to me it's just not worth it. So you'll find that I do try to every year allow myself one or two items to spend some money on to get quality or lightweight gear. But at the same time, I don't have to have the most ultralight thing that there is. Like I said, my base weight, if you just counted really your basic sleep system and some of those things, is probably only about 15 to 18 pounds. So I'm happy with that. Knowing that the heaviest my pack was the whole time on the trail was 38 pounds was great. I would say on average my pack probably stayed in the range of 33, 34 pounds. Which to me is a great weight out on the trail. Would I love to have a 20-pound like some folks do? Sure, but is it worth the extra, $3, $4, $5,000 that you might have to spend to get some of it? I don't know yet. Each year I'll dial it up and I'll add a little bit more to mine as we go along. But there are always going to be certain things like some of these accessories here that I'm going to carry, just because it's in my nature to do that. To be prepared, to have the things that I need, especially when it comes to the safety arena. I'm always going to err on the side of safety. And then I carry some of the camp, some recording gear as well, because I like to bring you guys along the way and showcase a lot of that stuff. So that always adds a little extra weight as well. So outside of that, that's really everything that I had there on the trail. Very glad to have shared that with you guys. Looking forward to now going and washing and cleaning a lot of it, hanging it up, getting it ready for our next trips, stuff on that. So if you have any thoughts about it, what are some of your favorite gears? Leave some comments, below on the things that you've liked. Tell me, if there's anything that you feel like you would have had different, give me the comments and leave those comments for me. If you like what you got, feel free to like and subscribe. And there's going to be future content as well as we talk through a lot of our other weekend trips and other trips that I have planned for some winter camping coming up this winter as well, to be able to follow us and be notified when all the next videos come out. If you haven't watched our Colorado Trail adventure, definitely go back, check it out. There's 23 days there listed out from where we started at Kenosha Pass, and finished up the rest of the trail. It was a great event. If you're thinking about doing it, if you got any questions about gear, put them in the comments. I'd be glad to help folks check it out. We've also got a website where I'm trying to put some of the information up to help people plan for it. I spent a lot of time planning to get ready for the Colorado Trail through hike. And so you can go check out www.backpackingscouter.com and see some information and stuff there as well. So hope this was helpful. Hope you guys enjoy the videos and hope everybody has a great day. Thanks.